A coordinate graph is a graph that's made with two number lines joined together. So you have a horizontal number line and a vertical number line. Okay, so if you look at this, we've got our horizontal number line here and our vertical number line here, and they intersect together at 0. And these two number lines create what we call a coordinate grid or coordinate graph. Now the origin is the point where these two lines intersect. And if you remember, we said they intersect at 0. We write this point as an ordered pair of 0, 0. And I'll explain what that means in a minute, but 0, 0 is our origin. Now, we said it's made up, a coordinate grid is made up of a horizontal number line and a vertical number line. The horizontal number line is our x-axis. So it goes right here. We call that our x-axis. That's our horizontal number line. And we also have a vertical number line, which is our y-axis. And it's really important for you to know the difference between the x and the y-axis, because eventually you're going to be asked to move things around based on whether they're near the x-axis or the y-axis. So one way I tell kids to remember what the difference is, if you think about this and you put something like this up on the top, it looks like a giant letter Y. And that means that that is our y-axis. It really has nothing to do with the fact that it's the y-axis, but it's a really easy way for you to remember which is x and which is y. Now, when you have this coordinate graph, it's going to be broken up into 4 quadrants. Okay, a quadrant is a section of your graph. So like this is one quadrant over here, this is another quadrant. And the quadrants are numbered. Okay, so if you look at these numbers, this right here is your first quadrant, quadrant 1 right here. This is your second quadrant, your third quadrant, and your fourth quadrant. And you don't need to know that very often, which quadrant something is in, but every now and then you'll be asked, tell me what quadrant it is. And then finally, you'll see that we have things that we call ordered pairs. Now, ordered pairs are a way that you can tell where an exact point is. Okay? An ordered pair is almost like the directions on how to get to a certain point. And you have this point here. The directions, or the coordinates, would be to go over 3 and down 6. The way we would write that as an ordered pair is the number that you use to go over across your x-axis comes first. So over 3, it's a positive 3 because we started at 0 and went to positive 3. The second number tells us how far up or down you go. Since it's a negative 6, from here we're going to go down 6 places, and that tells me where to end up. So that's an ordered pair. Now, ordered pairs always have parentheses around them. The coordinates are always separated with a comma. And some other things, they always have the x value first and the y value second, which means your first number is always going to tell you how far you're going to move to the left or the right. If the first number is positive, then you're going to move to the right. If your first number is negative, then you're going to move to the left. The second value, the y value, tells you how far up or down you move. And again, if it's positive, you're going to move up, and if you're negative, you're going to move down. And we'll have a chance to practice that on this slide. What we want to do here is we want to name the ordered pair for each point. So we're going to find the point and tell the directions or the ordered pair how you get there. And then finally, we'll go back and we'll identify the quadrants. Okay? So the first thing you need to do is find your point. So if I want to look for point P is right here. Now, if I want to know how do I get to point P, I need to think about, okay, I always start at my origin right here. And we know for an ordered pair, the x value comes first. So I want to know how far do I need to go on my x-axis to get to this point. So from here, I'm going to go to the right 2 places. You can see that's a positive 2 because I'm moving to the right. So the first thing I would do here is I would have a positive 2 because I'm going to go 2 to the right. Now, I need to then figure out how far up or down do I go. Well, from here, I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3 places. And since I moved up, that's a positive 3. So the ordered pair for this would be 2, 3. Okay? So it's going to be over 2, up 3, just like that. All right, let's look at another one. Let's find Q. Okay, if I look over here on my graph, Q is right up here. So again, I need to think about how do I go from this origin to get to Q. I always go across the bottom or across first before I go up or down. So from here, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 places to the left. And because it's 4 places to the left, that's a negative 4. Because I started at 0 and I went negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. Now I need to go up. So I'm going to go from here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I go 6 places up. So that's going to be a positive 6. Next, let's find R. R is here. So to get to R, again, we started our origin. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places across. And because I moved to the left, it's a negative 6. And then from here, this time I'm going to go down 1 spot. So if I start at 0 and go down 1, that's a negative 1. So it's negative 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then negative 1 brings me down 1. Point S is over here. So to get to S, what I'm going to do is start at my origin. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places to the right. So it's going to be a positive 6. And then to figure out how far up or down I go, I'm not moving at all. That point is right on my x-axis. So since I didn't move up or down at all, it's going to be 6, 0. Okay, almost done. Over here to T. So I'm going to figure out from here. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the right. So that's going to be 5 to the right is going to be positive 5. And how far down? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And since it was down 7, that's a negative 7. And last but not least, my point right here. I'm going to go to the right or the left? Nope, not at all. So since I don't move right or left at all, that's a 0. And then I got to see, okay, how far up or down did I go? Well, it didn't move up or down at all, so that's a 0. So 0, 0 is my ordered pair for U. And remember, what's the special name we give 0, 0? That's your origin. So I'm going to put that in right next to it. Now, we had 2 jobs. One was to identify the ordered pairs, which we did. The next thing we had to do was identify the quadrants. Now remember, when we're looking at the quadrants, oops, sorry about that. When we're looking at the quadrants, what we want to do, remember this was quadrant 1, this was quadrant 2, this is quadrant 3, and this is quadrant 4. So all we really have to do to identify the quadrant is look for the number. P is in quadrant 1. So P is in quadrant 1. Q over here is in quadrant 2. So we would list that as quadrant 2. R is over here. R is going to be in quadrant 3. Now S is a little tricky. S is right here. It's in between quadrant 1 and quadrant 4. Because it's on an axis, it's not actually in one of the quadrants. So what we could put for here is that it's on the x-axis. Okay? Or if it was on a y-axis, we would put the y-axis. Or even you can see here for a special place, the origin, we just wrote origin down. Okay. And the last one we need to look for now is over 5, down 7, T. T is in quadrant 4. So we'd list that as a quadrant 4. All right. Now something special about these quadrants that we didn't really talk about before. Any ordered pair that's in quadrant 1 is going to be a positive number for x and a positive number for y. Because if you look, every time you move to this side, x is a positive number. And anytime we come up like this, y is a positive number. Now in quadrant 2, it's a little different. Quadrant 2, to get to quadrant 2, we have to go over to the left and then up. So anytime we move to the left, that means our x value is going to be negative. But our y value is still going to move us up, so that would have a positive y. Positive y. All right, looking at quadrant 3 over here, we're going to have to go to the left and then down. So to the left means our x values are going to be negative, and if we're going down, it means our y values are also going to be negative. So anything in quadrant 3 is going to be negative and negative. And finally, quadrant 4, if you take a look at it, quadrant 4 has to go to the right, which is positive, and then down, which is negative. So x would be positive, and y would be negative. And you don't have to memorize that, but it does help kind of show a little bit what's going on with those ordered pairs. All right. Now finally, we want to be able to put dots on our graph in the correct places. So here it says graph and label the following ordered pairs. So I'm going to put point A here at point 2, comma 4. Now remember, X comes first. X tells me how far to the right or the left I'm going to go. Y tells me how far up or down. So since this is a positive 2, I'm going to start here, and I'm going to go to the right 2 places. My Y value says 4, so I'm going to go to the top 4 places. So over 2, up 4, and that is point A, so I'm going to label it with an A. Let's do the same thing with B. Remember, first number, left or right, second number, up or down. So it's 2 to the right, and negative 3 means I'm going to go down 3. And I'm going to put a dot there, and I'll label that B. C. My first number tells me left or right, second number up or down. So negative 1 means I'm going to go to the left 1, and then negative 3 means I'm going to go down 3. And that's point C. And finally D. That tells me how far left or right, second number how far up or down. So I'm going to go negative 1, positive 4, and that's right there. Now the next thing says, down here, connect the points in alphabetical order. So what I want to do is I want to go through and start at A and connect them in alphabetical order. A to B, to C, to D, and we'll go back here to A, and it says describe the figure that we just formed. And the figure we just formed is a rectangle. So we can use this to identify different shapes too. And that's how you do coordinate graphs.